Alright, so here we have a unit that's short on refrigerant. So our pressures here. We have a 410A system. As you can see, we have a safety on here. Low pressure switch is tripping. It's kicking back on, and the pressures are dropping. Here you can tell that our pressures kind of remain. Our head pressure kind of remains kind of still. On 410A, the advice that I would give a new person is to just to help you gauge on the pressures for each type of refrigerant, each type of system. Try to gauge yourself on a properly maintained unit and look at the temperature. Usually, all types of refrigerant kind of fall into the same pressure when it comes to an AC unit that's a mid-temp refrigerant. So in this case here, no matter what refrigerant I use between 410A and R22 or 407, what I'm looking for is a 110 on the on the high side, and somewhere like in the 42 mark on the back pressure or the back side. Low side is always back side, high pressure is always the head or the high side. So in this case, this is 410A. What I really want to be is somewhere around this mark right here when it comes to head pressure. When it comes to back pressure, I want to be somewhere right where that 40, 42 mark is at. Somewhere around there is where I want to be. Typically, you would use your subcooling superheat to actually get you really to be on point. You would use your superheat subcooling, but if you don't have thermometers on your pipe, in this case, I left my digitals. I'm only doing with my analogs. I'm going to look at pressure and discharge and supply temperature downstairs. I'm looking for a 20 TD across my evaporator coil, so that'll get me somewhere where I need to be at. Here, again, we want to be somewhere here. We got our 410A kind of put together there. We bleed the system out and we're ready to charge. I bleed it out a little bit so you get some refrigerant. No airs in that line. And then because the unit is running, we're going to do everything through the low side. The unit is off, so we're trying to charge it. I'll go through the high, but in this case, when the machine is on, you want to go through the low. The low side is the suction side, so it will help suck in the refrigerant. If you try to do it on this end, the compression ratio is going to be much greater than the tank, and you will have a problem on this side. So you never go to this side. You always go to your low side. In this case, I'm just going to crack it just to maintain that back pressure up a little bit. So I'm going to crack it right now. And as you can see, we're adding it. As we add refrigerant, our high side is also going to be going up. And again, I'm looking for ideally, we're in the Northeast, I'm looking for a 110 temperature. So I want my pressure to be somewhere close to between the 350 and the 375, 390. Again, it varies depending on the conditions. The coil is clean, the evaporator, the main is on, the evaporator is clean. So again, we're just going to add some pressure, some refrigerant to the system. And we monitor it, of course, with our scale. With 410A, I typically kind of do either half pound or 1 full pound at a time. 410A does need to cycle around the system a couple of minutes, within 2-3 minutes to actually settle itself down as far as the pressures are concerned. So we're going to stop it right there. We're maintaining our 100 time. Again, my ideal spot would be at the 40 mark. So we're still much lower, so we're going to add some more. As you can see now, my fan is steady, compressor is steady. This is an ICM type of fan. It is controlled, so based on head pressure, we'll determine the speed on that fan. In. Our pressure will rise and our fan speed will go on. We do have a big heat load downstairs, so this is going to take a bit. To bring that pressure up. my little. I have it closed, so our back pressure gun is maintained. Our low pressure switch actually has a cut off and cut in. It will cut out at about 90, 85, 90 PSIG, and then it will cut back in about 110, 120, depending on, again, what you choose. This is air cooled, so we're kind of using those numbers. Right now, it is steady. The fan will try to help maintain that pressure, so it won't be going too fast, because again, my head pressure is pretty low. A little bit more. And when we add a little at a time. We do not open it up full blast. Kind of go in slowly so that it can, we don't, again, we don't flood the compressor, because again, we are charging liquid, and when we charge liquid into a compressor, is a vapor pump, we don't want that much liquid into that. So right now we're close to about 3 pounds in. That pressure is remaining the same. Pressure went up. And we're almost at where I want to be at. I want to be a little bit above that. And the reason why you want to be in that number range is because, again, our freezing mark is 32. Any moisture in the air will touch any type of piping in this system, such as the suction line or the evaporator. It will freeze, and that's what causes icing on the evaporator or the suction line. When you're below 32, between 32 and 30, below 32 degrees, it will start freezing. That's one sign, but because we have a low pressure switch, the coil will not ice up in that case, but it will just not be cooling with the space. So in this case here, a little bit more. Just a little bit more. Stopped it. Let it circle around. And again, great thing to do is actually do a superheat subcooling to just confirm your pressures and your temperatures. Almost where I want to be at. The fan is actually ramping up a little bit. Our head pressure is getting closer to that 110 mark. So that's where we want to be at. Add some more. Again, if you have your temperature gauges on the pipe, again, do your subcooling superheat. You will see that the numbers are way off. You add to bring those numbers down. In this case, we're just using our gauges. Now, if this was R22, again, I would use the same concept where it would be using the numbers. So in this case, the green represents R22. So R22 in the 40 mark, I would be somewhere between 70 and 75, somewhere in that number. So Maybe like 70 would be the ideal number. Same thing on the high side. So the green represents the R22, and in this case here, 110 falls like right there, and so that's where I want to be when it's R22. 407 is very close to R22. That is give or take about maybe 5 psi difference, between 2 and 7 psi difference. Please excuse me, I don't know the number off the top of my head, but they are very close in pressures. But in all essence, the temperature will all remain the same. So 110 for R22, 110 for 410A, 110 for 407, that will be the same as far as temperature is concerned. Again, understanding the type of unit you're working on, understanding the conditions that it's in, will dictate what pressures you're really looking at. Alright? Hope that helps. I'm going to give it a little bit more, but it's basically it. Again, your low side, your high side. The low side is your suction line, which is the thickest line. The high side is the smallest line, the little line, just to kind of make it very easy to understand. That's what we have going on. Okay? Good luck, guys. This is for the newbies. Good luck. I'm rooting for you.